The next session we have is titled Aesthetics and Identity, Exploring Indian Art and Heritage. And the panelists are Alka Pandey. The panelist is Alka Pandey, who will be in conversation with Jyoti Seth. I invite Alka Pandey, Dr. Alka Pandey, to kindly come on this stage. Dr. Alka Pandey, an art historian who taught art history at Punjab University for more than 2 decades, has also taught art and aesthetics at the Delhi College of Art, NID, the DJ Academy of Design, Coimbatore. Her major fields of interest are gender identity and sexuality and traditional arts. Dr. Pandey, under the aegis of the Charles Wallace India Trust, conducted postdoctoral research in critical art theory at Goldsmiths, University of London, a recipient of several awards in the field of art, including the Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters by the French government, Australian India Council Special Award, L'Oreal Paris Femina Women for Design and Arts Award, Amrita Shergill Samman, Cultural Champion and Women of the Year by She Inspires Awards, and Lifetime Achievement Award by CMIMA Art Gallery. We are so happy and fortunate to have you amongst us, ma'am. As a moderator, we have Dr. Jyoti Seth. She holds 41 years of experience in academics and non-profit work, has retired as the principal of Government College for Commerce and Business Administration, Sector 50, Chandigarh, and has been teaching sociology to PG, UG levels, guiding PhD students, writing research papers, completed several projects. And ma'am's specialization is in sociological theory, gender studies, keenly interested in child rights, women's rights, and she has been the head of the sociology department at the PG Government College for Girls, Sector 42 Chandigarh for several years. And ma'am has been a trustee of the Jago Re Rural Charitable Trust at Dharamshala, Olak, Vadodara, and member of Anandini. And she, as an academic, has extended to a committed engagement with girls and women and the youth, and she's also a freelance gender and development consultant and trainer. So over to you, ma'am, Dr. Jyoti Seth. Waiting to hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon. And Alka, in this very formal space today, we're going to have a conversation. We've had other informal conversations, of course. My association with Alka goes back to more than 40 years, when Alka taught history and I taught sociology in the same college. And I also remember Alka typing away on her Remington typewriter. That was Alka then. And now I see her working on her Mac and doing much, much more. And that's Alka now. And this has been a phenomenal journey, Alka. And today, let's trace your personal and professional growth, as well as the multiple identities that you encapsulate within you. I remember you say that your youth was Bombay, and you got married and you came to Chandigarh. And as a young woman, she decided to change the career path she was on earlier. And she took on academics, research, and teaching. And besides that, she did much more. She was the art and she was the dance and music critic for the Tribune. And she wrote a column for Indian Express, the art and interior column, every week. And we would go to many a dance and music recital together. But what is interesting, and I remember that many a time she used to have a dinner party going at home. She would do a whole day's work in college, come back, cook an elaborate meal. She cooks very well. And have everything in place, go for the performance, come back through the back door, type on her typewriter, then drive to the Tribune office to give her piece in. And then, of course, she got a runner who would come and pick it up. As a wife of a bureaucrat, you had many challenges, Alka. Would you like to share some of those?
First and foremost, I'd like to say a big thank you for the organizers, to bring me back to the city which really changed my life in many ways. Chandigarh was a very important part of my karma bhumi. I came here in 1981 as a young bride from Bombay. The minute I entered the city, getting off the buses which had just started, the Shatabdi wasn't there. I got married on the 12th of June 81 and reached Chandigarh on the 14th of June by the air-conditioned bus. And I'd never been to Chandigarh in my life. I grew up in Delhi. I was raised in Delhi. I was living in Bombay. And I came, of course, I was much younger and definitely 30 kilos slender. So I was there with my 5-inch stiletto heels, wearing, in our days, we were all very much influenced by the Western world, wearing a dress and feeling quite, I've come to this little town kind of a thing. So I remember my husband was a young civil servant, and we got off the bus. We came to Sector 33, which in 81 had the first set of multi-storied buildings near the garden. So my husband told me, this is multi-storied, this is the high-rise of Chandigarh. So I walk in and I say, and where's the lift? He says, lift? What lift? This is only 3 floors. So I took off my sandals. I realized that now a new world has started. I climbed up we were on the 3rd floor. I climbed up the 3rd floor and a new life started. I left the life of communications because I just finished my MA. I was working for Doordarshan in Mumbai as a newscaster, doing a lot of voicing for commercial ads, doing a little freelance for Femina, which I continued to do here. And Chandigarh was actually samvega for me, an aesthetic shock. It's a very different city today. I'd love to come back and stay here. I feel very sad that we actually sold our house and moved to Delhi permanently. It's a city with a lot of educational institutions, the Nehruvian vision of a new India. But 45 years ago, it was grey buildings, brutalistic architecture, grey beards, and wife of a young bureaucrat, where I had to all the time bend down and say "Sat Sri Akal" to everybody. I was asking my husband, when will I have to stop bending so low? It was a very, very different. You see, the challenge was that it was quite feudal. It had a lot of hierarchy. There was a lot of formality. And at that time, very, very non-inclusive. People lived in their own little worlds. The Gurdwara was the main place. All the bhogs, the parts. The first thing I had to learn was to cover your head, go for the parts. And it was very, very family-oriented. The concept of opening up, you see, I grew up in Delhi, I was in Bombay, which is a city, which is a melting pot where you have lots of friends from different communities. Here it was all about Tayaji, Mamaji, Phupparji, Masarji. And nobody, they didn't want to meet anybody new. And it was so difficult to try and get into this thing. And then the other thing, there was the Katsard, the Jats, the Khatris, the people from Lahore. So it was so difficult for me in 1981 to try and get into any social framework. And then, of course, there was this whole bureaucratic mafia. So the chief secretary's wife, You're the young person's wife. That was the main challenge. You see, we are very adaptable, resilient creatures, and after listening to Geetika, the heart.
The other bureaucrats here should be enjoying.
So after listening to Geetika's very, very moving and very, touching story, which was, tough to handle, my story had its other challenges, and these challenges were really very difficult, and it really caused a lot of, I just couldn't handle it. And every time I was dreaming of going back to Delhi. Because my husband would say, just let me finish my district training. I promise you we'll go back to Delhi. That, of course, didn't happen. I stayed here for 19 years. I loved it. And I think the first 5 years were the most difficult years. And as Geetika had also said, it's when you are out of your comfort zone and you are in a state of great discomfort that you learn a lot. Because the first thing I had to learn was Sajje and Khabbe. Because I come down the stairs and the driver tells me, "Kithe jana hai ji?" So I said, "Aage jayenge." "Kithe mudna hai?" So first thing was Sajje de Khabbe. And I was in Delhi. Everybody thinks in Delhi you know a great deal of Punjabi. But the Delhi Punjabi of those days, I call it the pink Punjabi. The only thing was Hanji, Naiji, koi gali nahi hai ji. But here, the Punjabi, you had the Doabadi Punjabi, you had the Malwadi Punjabi, you had the Majhels. So, there were so many things that I had to come and understand the many social layers, and you being a sociologist will understand that better. There were so many layers that one had to negotiate. And I promise you, being a bureaucrat's wife was awful, because the bureaucrats, with no offense meant to the ones here, I think they probably, it was a thing between the haves and the have-nots, because when I went to join the university, a senior professor turns around and says, "Oh, here comes another bureaucrat wife to learn coffee table conversation." So as a young 24-year-old, I found that very cruel. Then another senior bureaucrat tells me, because I never did change my name and I tried to stick to my own identity and agency, and this was 45 years ago, he says, "Oh, you think you're going to be known by your name? What are you? Nothing but a mere IAS. So you were just a mere IAS. You go to the university, you are hated by the university professors because you happen to be a bureaucrat wife. You go into the other social part of society, you are disliked because, you have a car and you have a driver." So those kind of things, when you're all of 24 and you're leaning slightly to the left and you're a liberal, it is very tough on a young mind. Nowadays, of course, those kind of challenges are not there anymore. But I'm talking of maybe 4 decades ago. It was very tough. Believe you me, not easy. Not the city beautiful, which it was called, but a city very tough. But I loved it, and I'm glad that I managed to survive. And when I come back, I love coming back to the city, and I really wish we hadn't sold our house in Chandigarh and we had come back here to roost.
But this also became the basis of your further work. I wanted to ask you that you had this Western education. And I saw that in your home, your family, your parents, you were very rooted in the cultural, traditional ways of life, rituals. And that formed part of your everyday life. I also remember you had a teacher who used to come and do Sanskrit scriptures with you. You also were learning Indian classical music. Your mom was a classical singer. And your dad was very rooted into the traditional practices as well. How did this all influence your philosophical moorings and your choice of working in the area of Indian art?
So I'll just go back a little bit again to my shift to Chandigarh. So you see, I've also lived many lives, and in for my generation, we couldn't really make choices the way maybe my daughter does today, or the way women can make choices today. They can have, so many people I know have, they are married, but they are working in different cities. It's not the same. हमारे time पे ये था, जहाँ राम वहाँ अयोध्या. So I leave a great career in Mumbai, which I was doing very, very well. But then I get married, I come here. Now there is no radio, there is no television in Chandigarh. I had just finished an MA in history. I go to the Department of History in Punjab University and I say I want to do my PhD in Chinese. Long March. I thought, what a great thing, what a great idea I'd be doing at that point. So I still remember the then head of department, Dr. Jori, who turns and looks at me, says, "You're from Bombay University. We don't even know if we recognize Bombay University." Now that was another shock, and I felt really very sorry for myself. I said, here I'm coming from Bombay University and this Punjab University. So I said, never again, not to this department, because when you are young, at 24, you're very arrogant, and you think the world owes you. I said, I'm never going to go back into this department. Then I, by accident filtered into the history of art department, and believe you me, that saved my marriage. I so fell in love with my subject. I was in the university all day, because you must remember, when I got married, I knew nobody in the city except my husband. Nobody. I didn't know the language. I knew no one. My neighbors didn't want to call me over because they were very busy with their tayajis, mamajis, phuparjis and all that. They just were not interested. So then I just started spending all my time. My husband would go for work at 9 and pick me up on his way back at about 5:36, and I would spend all my time in the university. Now, at that point, I was more into Western art, Western theory. But later, just to cut it very quickly, because I've lived many lives even in Chandigarh. To cut it very short, I did my MA, I did my PhD, I had my child, I joined the department. Before I was 40, I had 6 PhD scholars under me, because I didn't have really a social life here. And my academia, my writing, it really kept me very well engaged. Then in 1999, I got the Charles Wallace, as the lady very kindly told you, I got the Charles Wallace India Award. And I went to a very cutting edge place in London called Goldsmiths College. And I was doing my postdoc. There also I had another kind of Samvega aesthetic shock, because in 1999, our language, now with the internet and Google, Wikipedia, we all almost talk the same international language. But at that time, the art language was archaic and old. And when I go there, I couldn't understand what the professors were saying, because the language they were using, trajectories, taxonomies. I said, the taxonomies I heard was in the classification of butterflies, telling you to make mapping the area of Camden Town. I said, mapping, contouring, these were all things which were in geography. So for me, it was again another shock, and I was getting so nervous, I thought I would have to come back, because, at that time I had got what you call leave without pay to go. The Vice Chancellor had, sanctioned my leave. And I said, how do I go back and tell my I was the head of department, the youngest head of department in art history. How do I go back and tell them that I failed? I'm sorry, I don't understand the language. Anyway, resilience again, and a wonderful girl in the name of Renata Doman told me, don't worry, it happens to a lot of people. Even I came from Germany. I didn't understand Mille Plateau. I didn't understand all the post-structuralists. She was very kind. At that time, because I was an awarded student, I had a lot of money. She told me to buy a set of books from Sussex University, Open University. I still remember that. And then she told me to buy a book called 50 Key Thinkers by Lecter, which I bought. And then I struggled. And I educated myself, and I was so overwhelmed with Western philosophy. The Frankfurt School, the French Situationists, all that. I was dying to be one of them, you know. I got a chance, and I'll show you in my journey in Delhi, to do the Documenta platform with Okwi and Wizoa. I chased the Goras and their philosophies for 5 years. I came back after a year, by which time my husband had moved to Delhi as a joint secretary in the Ministry of Water Resources. So I decided again to take leave without pay from here, and I set up the visual arts at the Habitat Center. While setting it up, while doing the Documenta platform, while working with this Nigerian, American academic, Okwi and Wizoa, I realized that, you know, I'm actually running up the wrong tree. What my strength is my culture, is my tradition. And I decided about 15 years ago to stop chasing the West. I decided that I don't want to be an Aishwarya Rai wearing a Galliano gown on the catwalks of Cannes, but I'd rather be a Sharmila Tagore wearing a brocade sari and walking the red carpet in Cannes. It gave me a lot of solace because I had already, as Jyoti has mentioned, I was already studying Sanskrit. I knew the scriptures well. Mere pitaji ko abhi bhi Ramayan kanthit hai. My mother used to read the Devi Bhagavad. I used to listen to music every morning because she practiced every single day. And
belonged to the Gwalior
Gharana. So, you know, it became easier for me to go back to my Bharat ka Natya Shastra, go back to Indian aesthetics. And when I was teaching aesthetics at the College of Art in Delhi, I realized that was another gap we had with our students who, whether they are from NID or FIT or College of Art, they're all taught Western theory. But how many of them are taught their own Sahitya? How many of them really understand Bharat Natya Shastra? How many of them really understand the Rasa theory? Because I had another friend in Germany, Benno, I remember now, he teaches in Firenze, gender studies. And when he was teaching at the Max Planck Institute in Berlin, and I went to meet him, and he said, oh, you must come for this seminar, and we're doing the history of emotions. And I realized that history of emotions was nothing but the Rasa theory. So you see, it just made me very sure that now I want to turn the lens onto myself, onto my own culture, onto my own tradition, something which I was so familiar. My comfort levels were so good there. So that is how I've led this kind of 360-degree change. And of course, I'm still very comfortable now with the West. I still go to the Documenta, I still go to the Venice Biennale, I still go to Tate, I still go to, you know, the Beaubourg, the Pompidou Center. I still see shows there.
And you have curated a lot of shows
what makes me, but what makes me really happy, really comfortable, is being within my cultural space, which is that of Indian art and Indian aesthetics, which I think has everything in it, from hybridity to linguistics to everything.
Every form, yes.
Yeah.
In sociology, we call it the U curve, going away and coming back.
So I've done the U curve.
You've done the U curve, yes, absolutely. And then you went to Delhi and decided to change your career path yet again.
Yeah.
Another choice that you made. So I thought that was a very significant choice when you made moving to academia and research when you came to Chandigarh. And then Delhi, there was another change.
Well, you know, Jyoti, I'd just like to change the use of word choice. I never had a choice.
I thought you had a choice.
No, I didn't.
That was a great
No,
decision
I
you
didn't.
made.
I was the eldest of 4 daughters. I had to get married. My poor father, I mean, he was almost having a nervous breakdown. I was all of 44 years ago. And think of a father with 4 daughters at that time. He thought, बाकी 3 का क्या होगा? ये तो हाथ से निकल गई. Television में his older brother comes and says, बेटी तो हाथ से निकल गई. वो टीवी में न्यूज़ पढ़ती है बम्बई में और फटे कपड़े पहन के वहाँ घूम रही है. So I was wearing this very fancy dress with a slit, and he goes and reports to my father that फटे कपड़े पहन के ये कर रही है. Then I was modeling a little bit for Femina. My father opens the cover spread and he says, "ये क्या? इसलिए भेजा था, मतलब छोड़ दिया," because he got transferred to Bombay. He didn't like it. He came back. I was tired of, shifting. I stayed back. So with all those problems, can you imagine my poor father? I didn't have a choice. I had to get married. When I get married and I come here, what do? I have no choice but to join academia. But one thing I'm very good at is whatever cards are dealt out to me, being the eldest, being a daughter, I'm very hardworking and I really work hard.
Very, very hard. Yes.
Then when I go back to Delhi with my husband, I'm head of department here. I'm going to be a professor, a young professor
absolutely.
at 40. What do? Can I stay back here? No. My father-in-law would have had a heart attack if I stayed here. And his darling, beloved, blue-eyed boy was in Delhi. So I pack my bags. I again take leave without pay. I do not know what I'm going to do. I'm sitting at the Habitat Center waiting for my husband to join me. We are members of that. And he, of course, couldn't join me because you know how it happens in Delhi, some meeting, and I meet my friend Arshia, and I said, "Yeah, मैं तो नौकरी ढूंढ रही हूँ यहाँ." She says, "Oh, there may be a part-time vacancy. They want somebody to run their magazine or something." I said, "Really?" Now again, no choice. I'm sitting in a little restaurant which was known as the Med. And I'm sitting there, and suddenly the director of the Habitat Center walks in, Mr. Libahan, and my friend Arsha says, "This is the director. This is my friend. She's come from Chandigarh and is looking for a job." So he says, "And what do you do?" I said, "I'm an art historian." And then she said, "Oh, she has done a book." And I had done a book called The Folk Instruments and Music of Punjab. So I had done a musical performance called Ruhu Punjab Di, where I had got the Vadali brothers. Now they are very, very big, of course. So Mr. Libaran remembered that program. He said, "Wo to bahut acha program tha. You did it?" I said, "Yes, I've done a book on Punjab and all that." He says, "Okay, come and meet me tomorrow." So I went and met him. This was the 18th of March 2000. I had just got in on that 17th. I go to meet him and he says, "हमारी ना वो एक space पड़ी हुई है, नीचे उसका exhibition hall है, वो आप देखो क्या उसमें बना सकते हो, कुछ कर सकते हो." Here I was a year in London, going to the ICA, going to the Barbican, going to the Tate, doing short-term courses at the British Museum, because there you have all that. I took it very seriously. I gave a 24-page this thing to him and left it because I had to come back. No answer, nothing. Then I called him. He said, "Oh, I haven't had time to look at it. Give me time." He was obviously not in a hurry. I was, because my husband had already moved, and what was I doing? But I was so happy to be back in Chandigarh after that one hard year in London. I was enjoying myself, and then 2 months down the line, I get a thing saying, "If you are coming up again, I've read your proposal, and I'm happy to meet you." So again, I get another chance, and the good thing was, being a good administrator, he said, "मुझे कुछ नहीं आता art के बारे में. Your proposal sounds good, but we are going to call it the art gallery." Again, this is 25 years ago, 2000. So,
and it stayed.
No, also,
you set it up and
yeah,
it's
no, also
there.
I was a little more self-assured then. I'm less now. I said, नहीं, art gallery तो नहीं कर सकते. It has to be visual arts gallery. क्योंकि हम तो विदेश से आए थे. वहाँ नया cultural studies शुरू हुआ था. नया word शुरू हुआ था. Visual culture. I said photography, ये वो big ideas in my head. But it's also good to dream big. And he agreed. He found a fire in me. He agreed. I remember for 3 months I sat outside his office. There was no visual arts. The room where I sit had the whole thing, the model of the Habitat Center, which I moved. I, got a door cut in. If you remember.
You had got a small room.
Yes. So not without choice, but again, my whole training, my father, who was almost like a fascist, all that, I worked, and it succeeded. वहाँ का वास्तु ठीक था. Everything went well, and a new profession started for me, because till then I'd never done curation, and I became a curator, and it helped me a lot.
What an opportunity.
Yeah.
You turned that chance into an opportunity.
Yeah.
So should we look at your journey
So I'll
in
quickly
Delhi?
show you my journey in Delhi. I made a quick thing. How much time do we have, Jyoti? I'll accordingly speak.
Yeah, we'll have to ask the organizers.
10 minutes? Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll speak very quickly. So this is my journey from 2000. I set up the Visual Arts Gallery in 2001. This is the gallery space at the Habitat Center. This is the lifts we used to have. The workers set up the lift. The second director redid the lifts. The second director redid and got new Schindler lifts. So I put all these, pulled the paintings out of the lifts, because this is part of the legacy of the Habitat Center, and put it all outdoors. So this is a lot of, Then I got a chance to curate the 2 metro stations which Mr. Kakkar got, and I used to put work of arts regularly in the Mandi House and the Jorbagh metro stations. It was another wonderful learning experience. I met a lot of things. I set up a new journal called the Visual Arts Journal. These are the publications. I did 16 years we did that. Then in 2001, I brought the Documenta, the platform 2. It was Experiments with Truth. This is the Documenta which we did. I set up a big collection for a big museum in Vienna, which I titled India Awakens Under the Banyan Tree, with the publications. I set up the Delhi Photo Festival. We did 2 editions, 211 and 13, all outdoors, public art, because by which time, after my Documenta experience, I was traveling to Munster, where every 10 years the whole city turns into an outdoor gallery space. So I opened up all the spaces at the Habitat Center, and this is how it happened. Then I set up a museum of indigenous art in Kanha, in Madhya Pradesh. So this is the museum of Gond art, which I set up near the Singhi Nava Jungle Lodge. These are the artworks, permanent artworks there. Then I got a chance to do a wonderful exhibition in the Simhast Kumbh in 2016. I called it Tat Tvam Asi. As you can see, I've become totally an Indophile, a born-again Indian by now, and this is what the whole exhibition was all about. Then I did another very, very interesting thing on the elephants called the Gajayatra. I did about 101 elephants from different parts of the country, got 101 artists to create 101 elephants. Then I instituted another new thing on photography and climate change, and we gave awards. This was called photography. This is how the committee sat. This is how we did our installations. It was called, the second one was called the Panchatattvas. As you see, again, all my ideas started coming from Indian arts and crafts. This is the photosphere, which you can see all outside, indoors, everywhere. Then I got an opportunity to work with the Bihar Museum, and I established the first museum biennale in the world. So this is what the Bihar Museum is doing. Now the 3rd edition of the biennale is going to happen again. The first one, COVID took over, so we did that. The second one was on Bihar, India, and the world. And the next one is on the global south. This is the Bihar Museum, where then I did a very important show for the PM, which is the Kiran Nadar Museum. She was the advisor. This was called Janashakti, which was on 100 episodes of Man Ki Baat, and these were 13 artists who did it. The PM came for it. Then I did another very important show on the big cat, Silent Conversations, for which the president, you can see, came. I'm just showing her the works of art we had acquired from all the tribal regions. Then I did a very important show called Rupantar, which was 5 decades of art and printmaking. And now I'm currently the festival director for a new property which the Times of India is doing, which is called The Art of India. This was the first round which I did in Delhi and Bombay. And the next one, this is the latest one which we just did. This is The Big Bull by Paresh Maiti. Again, Delhi and Bombay, The Art of India. And these are my many books that I have written. Thank you.
What an amazing body of work, Alka. Very, very impressive. I have a lot of questions, but I'll ask you two quick last questions. One, as a woman, an art historian, a curator, I'm sure you've had numerous instances where you've had to struggle more. Also, you chose very bold subjects. So how did you negotiate these spaces?
This is a deep question. Well, with all due apologies to all the wonderful men here, and I think we love all the men in our lives. It's still a boys' club. It's still a boys' club. It's very tough to be taken seriously as a woman. Very difficult to get money as a woman.
You have to work much
No,
harder.
no, they wonder, why do you need the money? Like one person, I've got two examples I want to give you. One was very hurtful. I meet this very rich diasporic man who lives in New York and maybe he's a little less rich than Shankhamitra, who couldn't get the Kiran Nadar for 118 crores. Very rich man, and he wanted to set up a museum and would keep meeting me, inviting me to Moria in Westview and all. And when I said that I wanted a fee, in front of my office, he's sitting and he says, why do you need a fee? Aren't you a bureaucrat's wife? They're all so corrupt and make money. Imagine, he's telling me that. Yeah, so you can understand how polite he was. So I said, well, if that was the case, would I be sitting and working so hard? Maybe I would have had a nice Chanel bag with me and, I wouldn't be sitting with you. And after that, I never spoke to him again, and he keeps coming once in a while, sends me a thing, I don't respond. One was that. The other was very interesting. 2 years ago, my peon in my office, and he's always talking to his wife, he's always on the phone. I just said something to him. I said, "Kya kar rahe ho, Ravi?" He said, "Madam, jara pyar se baat karo." Of course, I kept quiet because I thought maybe I'm sounding sharp. But the next day I got up and I thought, would he have spoken like that to the director? Would he have spoken like that to another man? No. So it's still a boys' club. It's very difficult for me. I just have people, it's very sad that with the Goras, I love working with the West, they always value your time. When I was shooting for the Arte, this very important Franco-German channel, they were very, very apologetic. They said, we'll send you to Khajuraho, we'll take all the costs, we'll do everything, but we don't really have a fee. But when I realized which channel it was, I said, okay, I'll do it without a fee. But when I was shooting for BBC 2, they gave me a fee. They first asked me for a fee, and I was very happy because they pay in pounds. No, they pay in pounds. When a Japanese radio channel asked me, they big apologies. We don't take ads, we don't do that, but we are trying to get a proper fee, which was good enough because I'm being paid for a Zoom call. But try working with the richest of Indians. They want everything free, particularly if you're a woman. Like somebody said, "Aapko kyun paise kamane? Aapke to husband hai na?" So will my husband bear the cost of my travels for a business meeting? Why should he? So these are genuine questions which I have been asked, and I'm sure all the women who are working here and who are sitting here will agree with me that it is actually a boys' club. And it's so difficult to be treated as a professional, particularly in an area where the rules are not in black and white. The art world is still very amorphous. It's still very opaque. There are no contracts. It's word of mouth. And for an idea, an intellectual property, now to I tell people first the contract, a 50% advance, and then I talk. And believe you me, 90% people have not come back to me. My work has suffered. And I really don't care because now I have no resentments. And I'm really loving my life. As my friend said to me, a doctor, Naveen Sakuja, he actually came to me till last year. He says, "Ye phir free mein kar diya hai tumne?" I said, "Haan." "Phir pro bono kaam kar diya?" I said, "Haan." He says, "You know, you don't realize you're a Rolex watch. You should put a rate card." I said, "Okay." So I put a rate card. I told my staff, "Ye bol dena." No, out of 10 people, no one came back. He came to meet me the other day with a book of his which I had helped him for. And then I said, "देखो मैं Rolex watch बनी, but Titan भी नहीं बन पाई क्योंकि कोई वापस नहीं आया." But the joy I have got, and I have absolutely no resentment now, because everybody who doesn't want to pay, I don't feel bad because I'm not going to give my idea now. आपके पास ideas हैं, आप करिए.
But the last question, let me just get her the last question. Okay, I'm just going to ask her, you say you've lived many lives, which is the most cherished one?
The present, the now. When I've learned to say no, and I've decided to be a Rolex watch.
May you continue to work with your boundless energy and pursue your intellectual excellence, Alka. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you for the session. Sorry we had to cut these short because we're running out of time and some people have commitments later. We would like to tell the audience that you can have one-on-one questions with the authors outside. And also, all the authors have the books placed outside. If you're interested, you can check them out.